You're listening to Find the Good News, episode 34, The Beat Goes On, featuring Jeremy Boudreaux. This episode of Find the Good News is sponsored by Parker Brand Creative Services, a branding agency that thinks sideways, pushes forward, and gets your brand up. Check out our work at parkerbrandup.com. Next week's episode features Devin Morgan, the director of the Imperial Calcasieu Museum. Devin has a message. There's plenty to do in Southwest Louisiana. You just have to get involved, and he's got some pretty good advice for people that want to do that. The week after that, I'll be sharing my conversations with Rusty Havens, the founder of the Southwest Louisiana Abolitionist, and then Julia O'Carroll, the owner of Tea at Walden. That means we're just 1 week closer to the launch of the mixtape episode. I think you're really going to enjoy this mixtape. I'm so sure of it that I'm already putting together the next group for the second mixtape, so stay tuned for that. I'll be announcing that in the next couple of episodes as it lines up. We're also working on a Patreon reward system for Find the Good News. It's shaping up like patrons of the show would gain access to some bonus episodes that would accompany the regular weekly episodes. Plus, there'll be some ways to win some Find the Good News merch. I don't want to say too much before we've got all the details worked out, but I'll keep you guys updated as we develop that. There seems to be a steady stream of suggestions for good individuals to visit with on Find the Good News. If you've got a name you'd like to send my way, you can visit www.findthegood.news. My email address and hotline number are both there, so if you want to hit me up, you can use either one of those, and I'll be monitoring them all the time, so don't hesitate to do that. It's turning out that Find the Good News has some pretty active listeners. I appreciate all the messages that I get. Please keep them coming and I'll respond to them in kind. Who knew there were so many people out there that were hungry for good news? I had a hunch, but I really couldn't have imagined the support this podcast would gain so quickly. So if you're a listener, no matter which app or site you're using to listen, you can help spread the good news by liking or rating an episode. Leave a comment, share a link on social media. All of those things are going to help me keep Find the Good News available week after week. Okay, I think that's enough for this week. Let's get to what you tuned in for and press play on a little good news. Find the Good News has been a healthy mix of people I know, people I don't, and a lot of good people that I've been indirectly connected to through my friendships with others. This show has been an experiment. What happens when you ask this simple question? Where are the good people? When you put that signal out there, you get a signal back. And that's how I met local musician, music teacher, and business owner Jeremy Boudreaux. Jeremy and I connected online through a friend of a friend, and not long after we made this first contact, we lost a dear friend. That connected us across space and time. You see, for a long time, I've felt that there's a beat, a drumming, a pulse that's resounding through the past, the present, and the future. If we take a minute to listen, we can hear it. Not with our ears, but somewhere else, deep in our cells, in a place inside our bodies where we can feel our ancestors, all of our individual histories syncing up, plucking the strings in our spiritual hearts. It's that beat that makes you look closely at where you've come from, all the things that had to happen to get you right where you are today. It's the beat that vibrates out from your actions, the beat that rumbles inside the people around you, the beat that people hear long after you're gone. In speaking with Jeremy, I felt that deep percussion. Where did Jeremy's cadence come from? While many people in their 20s were enjoying the fresh air and freedom of being a young adult, Jeremy Boudreaux was beating cancer, a fight that tightened snares, refined his rhythm, and led him on to plans and achievements he hadn't considered. He speaks with a sharp tap, honest and direct, and I found he embraces a kind of masculine compassion that I feel is severely lacking in this world. After visiting with Jeremy, I'd say there's nothing wrong with a little chest thumping, especially if you're doing it to wake up your own loving heart. Listen to this episode, and I think you'll feel it in your chest too. The thump-thump-thump of something trying to get in, and maybe something trying to get out. Go ahead and let it in. That's Jeremy Boudreaux's story, taking up shop in your mind, then opening the windows so others can hear. So make a little room, set up a drum, and let the good news beat go on.
Wake up, it's morning. You're dreaming up a story. I can hear the way it's going, 'cause you're laughing in your your sleep on the path to your deliverance, and a holy wall of light pouring through your window.
Old news, bad news, fake news. Sometimes you just want to shut it all down and get no news at all. With Find the Good News, I aim to change that by focusing on good people doing good work. I visit with artists, educators, civic and spiritual leaders, musicians, business owners, students, volunteers, and everyday citizens who are using their creativity, resources, and talents to bring hope and happiness to their corner of the world. In each episode, I dig into the hearts and minds of my extraordinary guests. We have street-level conversations about relatable things going on in their lives. Discover the critical life experiences that shape them, the perspectives that drive them, and the fundamental beliefs that are anchoring them to a path of goodness. There's a lot of news in the world. My name is Oran Parker, and I'm going to find the good.
And I love you just as well.
Okay, this guy's got a story to tell. So what do you do?
I am a music teacher.
Where do you teach at?
I teach at Bishop Nolan Episcopal Day School.
Oh, right on.
Yeah,
okay.
I teach middle school band, 5th grade through 8th grade.
Yeah.
And I also own a music studio called Village Music School.
Oh, okay.
Teaching private lessons. And
what kind of variety are you teaching over there?
man, we teach. If you come to us and you say, hey, I'm looking for somebody to teach this, if I don't have someone who can teach it, I'll find someone for you.
Yeah.
I kind of operate it like that.
Yeah, that way the kids have an opportunity. It's not just in one avenue, right? They can go down whatever.
Right. You know, we seem to have, we work well with little kids. We have a lot of younger students.
Like what? How little? What do you think?
I mean, like I have drum students that are 5.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, dude.
Yeah, I've taken on a few of those.
That surprises me. I guess I never realized kids got into that young.
Yeah, you know, well, today, you know, kids are asked. I find that kids are asked to do more.
Yeah.
In school in general, starting earlier and earlier.
Yeah.
And so people are trying things out.
Yeah. No, I can see that with my kid. I mean, he's 8, and I'm blown away by the level of interest he has in things that I didn't get interested in until probably high school. You know, because it's access. I mean, they can access they can access good and bad. But I mean, if you, as a parent, if you can provide them some safe doors to go down, and you can start to see like, wow, they're really generating this interest in something really young.
And that's what we try to provide, a space where they can do that. There's no pressure. You know, we're not Juilliard. You know, we're not going to kick you out if you're not doing. Yeah. It's just, how can we foster this growth?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, where does that start for you, man? I mean, obviously you seem like you really makes you happy to do it.
Yeah.
So was that something that happened to you, music?
Yeah. I come from a very musical family.
Really?
My dad plays music. My uncles play music. My grandfather on my mom's side built instruments, handmade, you know. Just,
really?
Yeah, he built guitars and violins. That's awesome, and stuff.
So you grew up around that?
Yeah. One of my uncles is actually a pretty successful country music songwriter. Really? Record producer. His name's Jeremy Boudreaux.
Right on.
Yeah, he had quite a few hits in the 90s and stuff, and that's my dad's brother.
Yeah, so that's
and they played music together, and it was like, I grew up with my Uncle Randy having this like #1 hit on the radio. It's like, yeah, that's my uncle's song.
Yeah. So that's interesting, man. That's got me thinking about something I was thinking about this weekend, and I've always been kind of into nature. I mean, I wouldn't call that, like, that's a pretty broad topic, but, you know, being outdoors and hiking and camping and just enjoying creatures, you know, just that space. And that's always something that I felt like was kind of hard to share with my kids. Like, you know, you want to take everything that you feel about it and sort of pass it on and package it and give it to them. And that's always kind of bothered me a little bit, that I haven't really ever figured out a good way to do that. And finally, a few years ago, I noticed that they really didn't have that level of interest that I had. And I said, well, I'm just going to let it go. I'm just going to get back to just, I'll enjoy it. And if they don't, that's okay too. But this weekend, my son was like, hey, Dad, I want to, can I go buy a plant for me to take care of? I was like, yeah, we can do that. And so we went plant shopping together, and he picked some plants out, and he went home, and we did all the stuff, bought the pots, put them, fed them, watered them, trimmed them up. And he just come in the bedroom last night when we were watching TV, and he said, man, today was such a good day. And I was like, really? And he said, yeah. He said, I just really enjoyed that so much. And it just made me realize just the exposure.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? In my head, it was like, I've got to pass this on. And I had this idea that I had to do something. And really all I had to do was just be me and expose. Yeah. And then like what you're talking about is that just sponge you are as a kid just comes into you.
That's very much how it was for us. Like my dad never was like, you're going to learn to play this. It was never that. Yeah. It was just the instruments were there. There was always guitars or bass guitars, or drums just around the house.
Yeah.
And when I was in 6th grade, all my friends are joining school band, and I didn't know that drums were an instrument for band.
Oh, yeah. You see the horns.
Yeah. That's what all my friends were playing, trumpet and trombone and whatever. Yeah. And like right before Christmas break, I remember like finding a drum set in my parents' room, like in their closet. And I was like, hey,
who's this?
Can I set this up? And like, my dad was like, okay, yeah, sure. And so I did. And then got special permission from the band director to join band in the spring.
Okay.
Beginning band. And I've been involved in band ever since.
Yeah. So what do you you have like one instrument that's like your focus?
I'm a drummer.
You're primarily a drummer?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting, man. And so you pass that on to kids. I love that story, man. It's like just the interest of seeing the drums was enough to kind of pull you into that.
Yeah. And like I wish I still had that drum set. It was this little old Ludwig 1970 vintage red sparkle drum set. It was small, wasn't in real good shape, but it was mine.
Man, how good is that? I mean, so many kids get interested in something, but because it's not something that their parents are into, they kind of have to fight for it a little more. When you're in a family where it's sort of you already have a runway for it. Yeah. How nice is that? I mean, and what blossoms out of that? It just goes to show you that having fertile ground for anything makes such a huge difference. I see that a lot, and it kind of stings. Like, and I'm a people watcher. I mean, I admit it, and I can't help it. I just always have been. And as I got older and started having children of my own, I started watching other parents and how they parent. And this is going to sound like a harsh judgment, but and I guess it is. It's unfortunate to still have that in me, but I mean, I got my own stuff to work on. But I would watch other parents, and I could see those narratives taking place where you could see the dynamic where a kid is interested in something and a parent just shuts them down, right? Because it's not what they're into.
Even as a teacher, I've seen that a lot. I've worked in a lot of high schools. I taught the percussion at Jennings High School for 7 years.
Yeah.
I would go a couple times a week after school. I'd drive over to Jennings High and work with them.
Yeah.
And right now I'm doing that with Westlake.
Yeah.
And you see kids that are super into, like, this kid's super into band. He's into drumline. That's his thing. He's great at it. And like his dad played football. Yeah. And his dad's like, He's like, oh, yeah. You're like, man, like, your kid's, he's excelling.
Right.
And he loves it. He's working hard at it. He's practicing all day, every day. Right. And you're like, yeah, but I wish he would have played football. Like, I see that a lot.
I bet you do.
It's disappointing. I don't see that so much at the school I'm currently employed at EDS. Yeah. There's not too much of that. We're very diverse in our student body. We're very diverse in our interests. Everybody kind of does everything. It's a small school, so it's like kids play football and they play band. Yeah. And they do art.
Got a little crossover.
Yeah. I mean, I help coach football when I'm the band director.
Yeah.
And I'm big into powerlifting. So during the summer, we do a weightlifting camp.
Is that you? Did you spearhead that? Or
yes.
Oh, really? Right on, man.
Yeah. It's like I teach them how to lift weights, and then I teach them how to do marching band.
Yeah. I don't want to leave that part of this conversation, but I mean, since we're talking about it, that was the thing. I think it's fascinating meeting somebody new across the table, because you can only make so many assumptions from what you find online. And when you started popping up, you know, you're putting the context together. I'm going, okay, this guy's a power lifter. What's going on here? Because I saw that first,
right,
and the music was later. But you know what I'm hearing is the opposite. The powerlifting came later. So where does that show up for you? And what's that in your life?
All right, so this is
here. I'm ready, man. That's what I want to hear. I want to hear about this.
So in 2009, I was diagnosed with stage 3 Hodgkin's lymphoma.
Really?
Yeah, I was 25 years old.
Wow, man.
And just like wasn't feeling good, but like just kind of thought I was working a lot. I was in school full time working.
What do you mean you weren't feeling good? I mean, I'm asking because I've heard the same thing from other people.
I was run down.
Just wore out.
Yeah, I just wore out. But like I said, like I was in the drum line at McNeese. College marching band is a full-time job in itself.
Right.
I was also going to school, and I was bartending, working.
You burning it like morning and night.
Yeah.
But still, you're young, right? So you're thinking, I got the juice, I can do this.
Yeah, and I was doing it.
Yeah.
You know? But just one day I was like, man, I need to go. I'm just not feeling good. Like I thought I had like a cold or something.
Yeah, like a flu type.
Yeah, and I went and got some blood work done, and the doctor was like, I need to send you somewhere else. And that started this whole like, over like the next like month, things just kind of happened fast. And then that was in like September, and then October 31st, I started my first chemotherapy treatment.
What year is this?
2009.
Wow, man. So 10 years ago.
Yeah. I did 6 months of chemo. I did treatment every 2 weeks. And then I did some radiation therapy after that because I had like tumors in my neck. That's where it was like there was this big knot in my neck that I hadn't really noticed because at the time I had like a neck beard and like just I was unkempt as unkempt could be.
Okay.
So I found they found that and I was like, oh, okay. So,
and you didn't feel it yourself. You just kind of thought maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know what I was.
Yeah,
looking for.
Would you? Right. Yeah. You weren't thinking about that. Right.
And so that happened, and after getting through that, and the doctors being like, "Hey, you're gonna be fine. Like everything looks good." Like, all right, cool. I'm gonna start taking care of myself.
Yeah, I got you.
But at that point, I hadn't really put much thought into that.
That wasn't a focus. You were living young. You're thinking, I got time to do that. Yeah, I got you.
Yeah. So I did that and came back, started going back to school. Started just exercising, trying to eat a little better, things like that, and started lifting weights on my own. Yeah, and that stuff. And I guess it's about 4 years ago, maybe 4 years ago. John O'Donnell was like, "Hey, you need to talk to my friend Freddie. He coaches a powerlifting team. Now you need to go check it out."
That seems like a big jump, like powerlifting. I mean, you go from just lifting weights to going, I'm going powerlifting.
Right. Well, it's like the lifting that I was doing on my own was that.
Oh, you were already kind of in that territory.
I just was kind of figuring it out.
Yeah, on your own.
Right.
Kinda,
And I look back at like some of the videos I took from them. I'm like, oh man, I could have hurt myself. Like,
dude, it looks like you could hurt yourself.
Yeah. If you don't have a coach, it's very easy to go the wrong way.
You're putting a lot of stress on your body. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But if you do it properly, it's pretty good for you. I mean, I'll be 35 this weekend. Oh
wow, it's coming up, man. Wow,
and,
congratulations.
Thank you. And I feel better than I ever did in my 20s.
Yeah, that's great to hear.
So I started training with Lake Charles Powerlifting 4 years ago, and I've competed in 6 competitions since then, and
man,
we've hosted some at EDS.
Incredible. And it gives, let me ask you, I mean, because we really jumped over that cancer part. Mm-hmm. I mean, I get the line. It's like here, and then here, and then here. But like so you went through that for what, a year, 6 months? I mean, during chemo, I mean, how long you would call it?
I would say almost a year.
Yeah.
Chemo was a 6-month thing, and then I did radiation therapy, and then basically like that summer was like just kind of getting back into doing things normally.
And you're not married, you don't have kids at this time.
Not at that time, no.
How does that change your... I mean, I'm going to ask this question because, I mean, to me, it's always been the most valuable question I could ask myself is about my mortality. Mm-hmm. Like, how did that... What was going through your mind? I mean, during that time period, like, is there any of those questions? Like, I'm sure, mortality, right?
Right. Well, I mean, up until that point, I hadn't really thought about it.
Yeah, I mean that's a young age to just go. Okay, I'm on track, man. I'm working, going to school, and then bam.
Yeah. Yeah, I hadn't really thought about it. Then I thought a lot about it, a whole lot.
Yeah.
And it's easy to get down.
Yeah.
Because you're like, man, all this stuff that I haven't done.
Yeah.
I might not get to do it.
Right.
And then I kind of came around to this other train of thoughts where, like, if you do pass away, if you do die, the world's going to keep going. All the people you love are still going to be here. They're doing their things. And, it's some interesting back and forth you play in your mind to kind of justify, like, if it goes this way, well, I won't have to watch my parents pass away.
Yeah, you're thinking
like
of the suffering, like the other sufferings that you don't have to go through.
Right, which is a kind of a crazy thing to think about.
That is an interesting thing. I hadn't thought of that before, but it's like, well, if I'm not here, then the mental anguishes of all these future, because eventually the longer you live,
right.
you see you're going to go through some tragedies.
And especially in like our culture now, we're so far removed from death, and
right,
we just don't see it in our everyday like our ancestors may have. Yeah, even just 100 years ago or 200 years ago. So I feel like we were meant to learn to deal with those things earlier on in life. Yeah, but we just don't now.
It's interesting, man, and maybe a weird segue, but I was watching this movie called Alpha. Have you seen this about the? It's prehistoric times, but I got that same thought when I was watching that movie, and these guys they're hunting woolly mammoths or ancient bison or something, and so they're traveling in these little packs, but the night was terrifying for these people, and so they would huddle up in these circles, and have these sort of campfires and cling to the fire. But they did a good job in this movie of really illustrating what life was like and the fears of the darkness. And you would see these just eyes out around these guys, and they'd go to sleep, and saber-toothed tigers would just drag them off into the dark. And I thought about that. I was like, man, I'm gonna lay down with my door shut, my air condition, and all this. And I just got that thought of what you said, how there's all these buffers between us and like just death.
Well, even that kind of goes back to with the cancer stuff. That's something I thought about. I started becoming thankful for the fact that I was born now.
Yeah,
because I mean, even 60 years ago, people who had Hodgkin's lymphoma just died. Yeah. And the only course of action was to do exploratory surgery. They were just like, yeah, we know you got something wrong with you, but we don't know what, so we're just going to cut you open and look around. Yeah. And then it didn't fix anything. Yeah. They were just like, yeah, that's what we thought it was.
Kind of research almost.
Yeah. Yeah. And it happened to thousands of people.
Man, I think about that kind of thing all the time. It's not just with that, but with so much. I go, how, and I know it can sound dark, and I don't mean it to be, but I think it's generating gratitude out of that. Yeah. Is to go, the fact that I can drink out of a container, a plastic, whatever. I mean, granted, plastic these days, we're finally starting to realize, hey, wake up, we need to change the way we do things. But I was thinking about just the good values of something like plastic, and I thought, there are values to it. There are things that we can do that we couldn't have done before, but at the same time, it's all built on the backs and the suffering of somebody else. And it goes into something I've really thought about for a long time, is that there's a price for every blessing that we get. I mean, somewhere down the chain, connected to whatever you're receiving, there's something or somebody that's paying the price for that somewhere. Right. And that's where I think that's where maybe as a people, and especially in our country, we need to have really way more gratitude than we do.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
Completely, yeah.
Yeah, because it's what you're saying. I mean, all the people who didn't have those resources, but all the surgeries and the exploratory stuff, I mean, they died. Yeah.
I mean, so I did, when people hear the words radiation therapy, they think some pretty terrible things, because at one point it was pretty terrible. I did 15 30-second treatments on my neck. Yeah. And that was it. Like, I didn't really have any side effects. It was mild.
Yeah.
At the I mean, like a mild sunburn at the most. And I mean, they used to just radiate your entire body.
Yeah.
They were just like, it could be everywhere, so we're just gonna douse your entire body in an immense dose of radiation.
Yeah.
And then they started figuring out that wasn't necessary.
Right.
I mean, I'm lucky. I benefited from that.
It's interesting how that can go such a different way, because see, my mom had cancer and she had to do radiation therapy. And while, yes, it ultimately did get rid of the cancer, I mean, she's in remission and all that, where it was at for her, it cooked her so bad. And then now it has actually destroyed her the calf muscles in her legs, the ability for the muscles to do what they're supposed to do. So every time, if she sits down for 30 minutes, the muscles, it's almost like she has to rip them apart to stand up. It's a terrible. And so she's like, you'll see like tears, like 2 tears will just come down her eyes when she stands up. And I go, it's like how it's very hard for her to find like that gratitude within that pain. I see that anyway. And again, my mother listens to this show, and I'm psychoanalyzing what's going on in her head because of her pain. But it's just what I see as a son. I just go, it's very easy. People go, you should be glad you don't have the cancer. And at the same time, it's like, yes, I am, but I'm having to, every time I stand up, I'm going through excruciating pain for the rest of her life. The doctors have said this isn't going to get better, it's only going to get worse. So it's that weird like double-edged thing with the value of life but then suffering. I don't know, interesting, man. I don't know, I can't imagine going through that at that age. I mean, I'm fortunate that I didn't really suffer too many side effects. It's really amazing. I did really well even with chemotherapy. I didn't throw up one time. Really? Yeah, I actually gained like 30 pounds. Wow. Yeah, pretty crazy. That is crazy. Yeah, they said it was pretty. They said like 2%. Yeah. Of people who go through that have that kind of reaction. If you had to go through that again, do you think it would be? God, I'm sure you don't ever want to go through that again. But if you did, do you think what would you carry into it this time? 10 years later. Trusting my doctors and just kind of, what, this is what they do. Yeah. They didn't just look this stuff up on Wikipedia. Like, they went to school for a long time. Right. And, they have a lot of experience with it. And, that's, at the time I was scared because I just had no clue. Oh, yeah, I bet. You just no clue what's going to happen. I remember did the first chemo treatment. I was just like sitting there waiting for something bad to happen. Waiting. Well, there's so much information out there. There's movies. The word cancer itself. It's just it's like a dark force almost. That's what it sounds like. It feels like. So you hear that. Something. I wish I could remember who told me this, but they said they're like, man, it's scary, but they're like, how do you want to die? Well, it's like you don't. Right. None of it's going to be fun. Right. So just do what you can to get through this. Yeah. Death is, and again, I don't want this to turn into a dark conversation. I don't feel like that death is something that always has to be dark. Right. I agree with that too. Yeah. My son, what were we watching? My littlest boy, he's never gonna really know my dad the way I knew him. He died when he was 5 years old. But it's interesting how he brings him up more than anybody. And there was something we were talking about watching the other day. I was talking about memories and how you can smell them and how they're tangible and you can hear the sounds. And we were watching this documentary. It was something about Tesla and Einstein or something. And he turned around and looked at me and goes, "That's how I feel about Pawpaw." And I was like, "What do you mean?" He said, I can close my eyes and hear him and I can see him and I have thoughts." And I was like, "That's interesting." And I started crying, there's some kind of gift in that to be able to cultivate that inside yourself, like to be able to actually hang on to memories, even at that little age. And, you know, and I told my son, my older boy, I said, you know, the value of, I guess, mindfulness in being with each other is so high, you know, because if you know death is coming, I mean, and it's coming for everybody, why wouldn't you want to go ahead and just go, well, I know I'm not going to always be here. If I leave before my children, which I hope I do, I want them to have those capsules, you know, inside of themselves, so they don't have to have that 100% loss feeling, you know? Because some people I see, when they lose somebody, it's devastating, and it is possibly because they love them, but it's because it's just not encapsulated, you know. They feel like they're just gone, you know. Does that make sense? It's like it's just erased from existence. I don't know, I'm getting off there, but
no, I know what you're. I've had that thought too. You know, I have 2 children. You know, and that's how I would want them. I don't want them to think, yeah, he's just gone. Yeah, like it's just erased. Yeah, nothing. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's what terrifies most people about death is the nothingness, the fear of nothingness. The finality.
Yeah.
Of it all.
Yeah. I have this conversation a lot. I have a lot of thoughts about it, you know, and I'm going to bring, if you don't mind me going somewhere, I'm going to bring up Brian Moore. You guys were really close. Yeah. I mean, seems like as close as 2 people can get. Yeah.
Yeah. I started, I guess it was like 2004. Yeah. That's when I first started really like playing music professionally, you know, with someone other than my family. Yeah. Started playing in working bands and stuff. Yeah. He was in one of those bands. And he was he kind of took me under his wing. You know, he was like this older musician. Yeah. He was an awesome bass player, fantastic singer. And we just clicked. However, like our personalities worked, we just got it. Yeah. And we played together a lot for a long time, you know, just over the years. I mean, it was, 15 years. Wow. You know, playing together off and on. It's crazy. And we got to the point where we didn't have to say things to each other. I mean, we're playing a song and we're just, I know where he's going. He knows where I'm going. We're having a conversation without saying words. Yeah. You know, to me, that's like peak musicianship. Yeah. That's like what every musician dreams of with their band is no one has to say anything. Yeah, dude. I mean, honestly, would you say this? Because, I mean, I'm listening to you and I can see the kind of look on your face. Mm-hmm. Would you say you're like almost in a way, you're like in love with each other in a way? Yeah. I mean, like. Oh, for sure. Yeah. Yeah. You're creating something together. Yeah. You're all contributing your own thing to it. Music is art that changes every time you do it. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's subtleties of the same song. You can play it 1,000 times, and it's 1,000 different pieces of art. Yeah, well, that's a good way to put that. Yeah, it's interesting. So you guys knew each other about 15 years. Yeah. Yeah. I met Brian in junior high school. We both went to LeBlanc Middle School together, and we lost touch after high school, and I say lost touch, I moved away, and, we weren't super close in high school. Mm-hmm. But our relationship, this is kind of a funny story, and it was just so strange how I had been thinking about it the week that he had passed away. I'd told the story to somebody else. I was bullied terribly bad in junior high school, and just constant over there where I went to school. I don't know what it was, but it just constantly never stopped. Always some kid wanting to pick a fight with you, and that changes you as a kid. It soaks into your brain. It changes the way you behave. And so Brian and I were friends, just general friends, not like we went over to each other's house, but we were just general friends. We knew we had classes together. And I can't for the life of me remember what instigated this that day, but one day I was late for the school bus. It was the end of the school day, and Brian and I had been joking around, and I was trying to get my stuff out of my locker. Well, Brian had came up behind me and put his butt against the locker door. My fingers got caught in my locker, and I was like, dude, we were the only 2 people in the hall. I was like, I gotta go. And he was kind of giggling and bumping up against the locker, and I was like, you gotta let me go. And he was smashing my fingers. He wasn't bullying me. Mm-hmm. He was cutting up, but I was like getting into that point where all that bullying was kicking in. Yeah.
And so I had a pencil in my hand, and dude, I don't know why I did it. I stabbed him in the stomach with it. And the look, I can still, to this day, it's a very strong memory, because I was like down on the ground at this locker, and I look up and I can see his face, and the look on his face was just like, and he said to me, he goes, "If I'm bleeding, you're dead." So I looked at my pencil, the like tip of the pencil is gone. And so I get my fingers out. He goes to the bathroom. Well, I'm like, I got to go catch the school bus. I'm running down the hall. Well, he comes out and he's got a little blood spot on his shirt, and he comes up to me and he's just like getting all on me about it. And then we were really not fighting. We were trying to have we're having a kind of a discussion. It was like, hey, why'd you do that? And back and forth, and why'd you do this? And you shouldn't have done that. It was just a bickering between friends. Well, this other guy comes up, and I don't know why. I guess because Brian was a bigger dude, The guy just grabs me and yanks me away from Ryan, and that turned to me and this guy get in a fight. And it was sort of like this domino effect of this whole pattern I had with bullies ever since that day. And I always tell that story. I said, it was on that day that Brian and I guess became better friends, because he and I both realized this little conflict that we had, this silly thing, turned into something way worse because we couldn't get along. Two friends couldn't get along. I always carried that memory around. I don't know why. Every time I would sharpen a pencil for years after that, and I mean even up to now, when I would sharpen a pencil, I would always think of Brian Moore. And I hadn't talked to him in many years, and then this happens, and it just I don't know, just that again, sharpening a pencil, everything in his life and all the things that people were sharing all just got sharpened down in that moment, and it really made me feel like a ton of regret for not cultivating a better friendship with him after that. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I watched all these people who did have this, like you, this deeper, longer relationship with the man, and I thought, man, what I missed out on, really,
right?
All over a sharpened pencil tip, and so I don't know. It was just, I don't know. Again, like I said, it's weird. Someone like him, you almost don't feel like they're gone.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, with the band we were playing in, every practice we're like, bring up something, hey, we're gonna do this, and it's like, whose idea was that? Yeah, that was B's.
Yeah.
It's just, that happens every rehearsal.
Yeah, that's gonna keep, and that's the beauty of that. Yeah. That's where that's where you can take death, I think, and completely judo flip that into something else, because all the raw goods are there from Brian's life, and it's just echoing. It echoes out through every vibration of every string, beat of every drum, everything like that. That's really awesome, man. Appreciate you allowing us to go there. I felt and that relationship with death has been a big revealer for me.
And I'm happy, I know it.
If you're like me, then you've got a long wish list of things you need to do around your house, things you just can't get to. It's not that I don't want to do them, but between my responsibilities at work, producing this show, and squeezing in some valuable mental downtime, I can't seem to get around to fixing the small stuff, and the big stuff is just waiting in line. To be honest, it kind of stresses me out. Maybe you're stressing out too. Well, stress no more, because I've got good news. My friend Ben Von Duke has started a handyman service, and he takes the mystery out of getting these things done. Ben Von Duke is not just some guy that calls himself handy. He knows what he's doing, and he knows a whole lot. Not only is he an experienced and professional carpenter, but he's kind of a Duke of all trades. What I love is that he's created an a la carte price list of services, so you don't have to worry about getting in your pockets too deep before you're ready. He'll fix your running toilet, install appliances, replace fixtures, install ceiling fans, repair sheetrock and concrete, and a whole lot more than that. Look, I'm not too proud to say this, but sometimes it takes me 3 times as long to fix something because I've got to get online and search videos just to figure out what tools I need. Then I have to go buy the tools that I don't have, and then sort of come home and do the job. I don't have to do that anymore because Ben Von Duke will do it and do it better. On top of all that, he's just a good person, someone you can trust. He's honest, he's kind, and those are things that I value highly, and I bet you do too. You can get a hold of Ben Von Duke, the Duke of all trades, the good old-fashioned way, by using the phone. Call or text Ben at 337-540-1355. That's 337-540-1355. He'll send you his service and price list, and trust me, his prices are more than fair. And do me a favor, when you do message Ben at 337-540-1355, tell him you heard about the Duke of all trades on Find the Good News. You make these big changes in your life. I mean, so now you're a decade later into that. How does all that come together? Talking about a sharpened pencil point, How does that all shape you? I mean, so who are you now as to who you were 10 years ago?
Right. So at the time, before I was diagnosed, I kind of wasn't sure of what I wanted to do with my life. I was in school, wasn't doing particularly well, wasn't really studying all that much, missing a lot of classes. I was playing music and bartending. That changed things for sure. I came back and was like, all right, I can do this school thing. I can graduate and whatnot. And while I was doing chemo, I connected with a guy that used to play music with my dad. Mm-hmm. He was the band director. I'm from Iowa, and he was the band director at Iowa High School and at the middle school whenever I was in elementary school.
Okay.
And he played saxophone in a band with my dad. His name is Matt Golden. He's now the band director at Westlake High.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I was like, I sent him a message on Facebook. I was like, hey, I remember you. Like, you played music with my dad and whatever. And he was like, oh, yeah. He's like, how's your dad doing? And chatted a little bit. And he's like, I see you're a drummer. I need someone to come help my drum line. And at this time, he was at Jennings High School. He's like, I need a percussion guy to come. And I was like, well, I literally had, like, my last chemo was like the day before their band camp started.
Oh, wow. And band camp's a lot of work, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, I'll do it. And so I would bring my computer with me to chemo, and I was writing music, and it just gave me something to kind of focus on.
Yeah, right. Using that time, make them.
Yeah, I was like, I said, I'm going to be here for a few hours. Put some headphones in and just get to work.
Yeah,
and see what I can do. So I came up with some things for them, some warm-ups and technique stuff, and finished my chemo. Next day, I'm like, all right, I feel pretty good. All right, here we go.
Wild, man.
Yeah. So drove Jennings, met the kids, started teaching drums right away. And I was there from 2010 to 2016. And
now during that beginning of that time period, you're not fully like free and clear. Didn't like the doctor said, okay, chemo's done, cancer free.
No, it's not like that. They finish chemo and they're like, okay, you can, if you're feeling good, go ahead and do stuff. But we got some more tests we have to run.
Right.
And I still had radiation therapy to do.
Yeah. Okay.
At that time. I was ready to go.
And you rolled into it.
Yeah.
See, that's awesome because I love hearing this because I don't know if you wanted to linger a bunch on cancer, but I mean, there's a lot to be learned in there and to unpack. I mean, and what I'm hearing is you don't have to get stuck right there because that can happen. I've seen it happen where it's like, I've got cancer. Life stops. I mean, everything stops and you get like paused right there and you just sort of watching. You see people like just waiting, right? And you didn't wait, man. Doesn't seem like you were waiting.
No, it goes back to that quote. It's not a quote, but yeah, I mean, how do you want to die?
Yeah. Like,
you're just going to sit and wait? You're just going to sit there and wait for things to go bad? Or are you going to live your life?
Right.
Life's happening, whether you're sitting and waiting for it to end or not.
Well, man, I can say I get that. I am guilty, too. I mean, I've went through hot and cold spots like that where you get stuck and you're like, well, I'm waiting for something to happen. And honestly, I would even say, and this show is kind of like that, it comes from that place because I have those thoughts like somebody ought to have a place for people to talk about this kind of stuff. Somebody oughta, and I kept saying those words, somebody should, I wish somebody would. At some point I was like, well, I'm sitting around waiting for something that really maybe I have the capacity to just do.
Right.
And make that. There may be other people out there who are having that thought too.
Right.
Waiting. Well, why wait? Because if I keep waiting, I could wait and be dead.
Yeah.
And then go, man, I sure wish I would have, done that. I wish I'd have had a table for people to sit at and just be able to open up and talk about real stuff. And so I mean, I get it. It's like you can wait and wait and wait. Why not be that thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Someone's got to do it.
Yeah. And so you did. You took off. You just went forward.
Yeah. And I was still bartending, working that stuff, and I was in school, but I was like, this drumline thing was fun.
Yeah.
Went a couple days a week. Spent about a month during the summer working with the kids and developed some really close relationships with some of those kids. So from that little Jennings drumline, I think was it 4 or 5 kids from that drumline went on to play in college.
Oh, wow.
2 of which became music majors. One of them is working on her master's degree right now, and the other one is he's actually in McNeese right now, working on his undergrad.
Yeah.
And, I mean, for Jennings, Jennings is a small community.
Sure.
Small little group of kids. When I first got there, I think there were like 7 kids on the drum line, and at one point we had like over 20.
Wow.
Just playing drums. Like it was like a third of the band was kids who wanted to play drums.
Yeah.
We did some cool stuff. We went and competed. We won a state championship in indoor percussion, which is basically drumline indoors. We did that, and I wrote their music out for them. Like that's what I enjoyed about it, was he gave me free rein to say, hey, this is, what do they need?
Yeah.
And I had never had that before.
Yeah, so you get to tailor this and go, well, let me think about this.
Yeah, so I wrote stuff that I thought was to their level, that challenged them a little bit, and we just kept going.
Yeah. That's interesting. I want to talk about that desire that maybe we don't even realize we have until someone gives us an opportunity to do it, to tailor something. Because I see it when people open businesses a lot, where they're like, well, this guy's doing good over here selling these or this service. Well, I'll slap a logo, and it sounds like I'm belittling. I'm not. I'm going to slap a logo on it, grab my own team, sell the same service, and you take the branding off, and you kind of, for all intents and purposes, it's the same business. You see that over and over again. How nice is it when somebody goes, well, hang on, I don't have to do, that's a cool business, but I don't have to do that. I don't have to structure it that way. I'm going to do this thing. And honestly, we end up celebrating that stuff more when it's like, wow, there's something special. There's something popping about this. What is it? What's different? And so, I mean, these kids are it's probably why you saw that increase, right? They're seeing like you're dumping in. What would I want to do?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you're coming out of a place where, here's this kid who sees a drum set, and music's sort of in the background of your life already. So you're like the perfect person for that. It's all just kind of history. Your own little personal history made you into that guy.
Right.
I love that. Yeah, that's awesome, man. And it's interesting how much of it is intent. That's a question I ask myself so often. How much of who I am and what I'm doing is my intent, and how much of it is just the gravity of like history just rolling forward and like continuing to blend all my ancestors' struggles and things together, and then here you are, and some of it's maybe me, but the rest of it's just some sort of I'm in line in the dominoes,
I think about that a lot, how all those things combine. And how 2 people from almost the same exact background can have 2 totally different views on something.
Yeah.
You've probably seen me talk about it before, like I'm big into Cajun history, heritage, all that stuff. And to me, I look at the struggle our ancestors went through, and that gives me a lot of empathy for other
people going through that today. We're seeing that.
Yeah.
Glad you brought this up.
Yeah. And other people don't see it that way.
No, you and I were in a conversation online
Yes, we
recently,
were.
and I was like, and it was actually, I'll be honest, that was, on one hand, I wasn't surprised, but on the other hand, I saw something that I'm happy to see, and it's people. There are more people showing up here in Southwest Louisiana that feel differently about this than I maybe assumed they did. There are more, especially men. It's usually what I find, and I'm all over the place with this, is that I find that I hear it from women more who see the families and people going through these struggles, looking for asylum or migrants or what have you, whatever it may be. The women rise up and have those voices. And there was almost like a machismo that comes with being against it,
Right.
And like there's something manly about it, and it's like something manly about wrapping yourself up in stars and stripes and like calling it yours, and it's some Alamo mentality.
Yeah.
And I mean, I go, where are the tender male voices?
Right.
Or where are those masculine voices
Yes.
that are going to stand up and say, hey, being compassionate is a good thing, and rise up in that regard. There's a strength in that.
I would argue that being compassionate is a masculine virtue.
Oh man, I do
Because
too. Yes.
to have physical strength, to be able to domineer over someone else who's weaker than you, and to not.
Yeah.
I mean, to just say like, no, I'm going to help you.
Yeah.
I could just take your stuff if I wanted to.
But I'm going to actually generate. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
That is harder because, I mean, look, all the emotions that drive us to hate and to be angry and to be violent and to choose those things as our options, those things are hot. And they can like just, to me, they're just like poisons. They'll take your mind over.
At one point, they must have served us well at some point in our evolution, or we wouldn't have them.
Right.
That instinct to protect,
Yeah.
to circle up and just kind of say, that's yours, this is mine, you can't get in here. Like
Right.
at some point that was talking about them alpha.
Yeah, right.
I mean,
Exactly. That's what they were trying. That's right.
Yeah. But we're the same animal who dealt with those things basically from 20,000 years ago. We're the same thing. We just have a different set of problems now. And maybe that reaction isn't always the best one
Yeah.
for the situation. I mean, and most people don't react that way. I think what we see a lot of is just the loud voices.
That's right. I agree. Yeah, they get the airtime. It's sensational.
Yeah.
It's juicy. It's gossipy, and there's a desire for that.
Yeah.
It's an empty container, though. I mean,
Right.
that is a meal that will leave you hungry. I mean, I can see when I was probably younger. I think back to high school a lot. I had a friend. It's funny. My son and I were just talking about this. We were talking about friendships, how they change and evolve over time. How it's normal. When you're young, you may not feel like it's normal when you feel a friend group breaking up. And you're
Right.
going, it hurts more because you haven't been through it before. And I told him, I was giving him an example. I said, I had a friend like that in high school. We were all going to go in the military. We were all pretty gung-ho. We all had this idea. And then as high school goes on and you start to see, well, this friend is maybe kind of racist. These conflicts that you're getting into as a friend group are really seated in this one person's ideas, and they're very hot and they're very aggressive, and you can all get wrapped up in the toe of that. And then you all, because your friends want to say, oh, this is how we all think together. But as your mind, you start to
Right.
mature just in that 4 years, you start to go, that's not really who I am. That's not really what I want. And you break away from those friend groups. And I think that just happens in the adult world too. We get wrapped up in that momentum of something, and it feels good to be in a group and a tribe.
Right.
Everybody's wearing the same hat. Everybody's saying the same things. Everybody's hating the same people.
Well, it's a survival instinct.
Yeah. I'm safe in this group over here, and we're pretty hot. You know
Right.
what I mean? And you better not mess with us.
Right.
It's just classic mob gang mentality. And we're just seeing it happen online. We're seeing it happen on the news. We're seeing, every camp.
Right.
So yeah, I agree. It is nice though. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, and on the flip side of that, I kind of felt like that even when we were having that conversation that night. I was like, hey, look, here's some other voices coming in here that aren't so quick to judge people. Right. It's nice.
Something that used to happen a lot when I was bartending. All right, so I'm this bartender behind the bar, and I got a shaved head and kind of beefy. And I look like a skinhead. I get it. Right. But people would come up to me and say, like, just say something kind of racist, and
make an assumption.
Make an assumption that I'm cool with it. And every time I'd go, "What'd you say? Hey, why'd you say that? Why? Why'd you say that?
Yeah.
Huh? Well, yeah, you can leave now." Oh, what? I was like, yeah, I'm not serving you. I don't have to.
Right.
I did that a lot.
Yeah.
It's
interesting.
Yeah, it was kind of fun.
That happened to me, and I'm guilty at various points in my life of making an assumption based on an appearance. But
again, it's instinctual. It's a survival trait.
Well, it's what happens when it's context. I mean, we're all walking around the world, getting information from every which direction. If something happens enough times, you start to make a assumption. Right. I mean, you make some kind of call about it. Your mind's doing that whether you're paying attention or not. I think it's our job to...
It's the primitive math of survival.
That's right.
You got to make a calculation.
That's right. This looks like the last thing that was bad, so this must be bad too. I mean, it's stick your hand in a fire, it's hot. It's pretty classic, but I think that's where some mind training helps, where you're watching your thoughts and going, okay, I'm having this recurring feeling here. But I think what I see anyway, and I'm again guilty and victim or whatever, is that the world is so fast, it isn't saying, slow down and watch your thoughts, slow down and watch your mind, slow down and watch your behavior, slow down and ask yourself why you're doing this thing. And so we just roll right into all these things, and before long we're just wrapped up in a pattern of behavior and thinking. One thing that I in those types of conversations that I really gets me, and I don't really even know the right way to talk about it, is when somebody starts saying, well, the law. And I go, yeah, I mean, okay, but if we're going to use the law for anything as our full basis for our compassion and our ability to be kind and just and human, I mean, we can look throughout history and find unjust laws all over the place.
I mean, not that there are people who are alive now who are victims of those.
That's right. That's right. I mean, so we can't really use that.
Right.
So we have to have something else, and that's where I'm at it, and that's my focus is what is my compass? And I like the word compass because
moral compass,
yeah, it's so close to the word compassion. And there's only I was writing it down the other day. I was like, I asked myself, is my compass on? And it's like, is my compassion, is it activated?
Right.
Because if I can use that as my North Star, then I don't have to worry about laws so much. I mean, compassion is going to show you what's just, I think.
Right.
Yeah. And it's interesting. You brought up our history, our ancestors. That to me, you're right. It just reveals immediately. When we celebrate Cajun Zydeco music. And I was talking to my wife. I said, we have Cajun festivals. We celebrate this stuff. But what's crazy is the same people that are out celebrating and dancing to this music, and we're saying we love Cajun culture, are some of the same voices that will say, these people belong at the border. They don't need to come over here. We don't want their culture.
The same people who are mad that we don't speak French anymore are upset with people for speaking Spanish.
Right. And
I'm envious. They have that connection to their culture that most of us just don't have.
Yeah.
There's a certain, like, you can read about it, you can live in it, but without speaking the language, there's just something missing.
Yeah.
It just is. We're told a lot of things about our culture, but I think a lot of us don't actually do our own research into it. Because there's quite a bit of scholarly work about it. In that conversation we were having with that guy that night.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, dude. I was dropping knowledge on you.
Yeah.
And you just didn't want to hear it.
That's right.
He's like, you don't know anything about my history. I was like, actually, yeah, I do.
Yeah.
Because I've took the time, years. I've been interested in this since I was a kid. And then getting older and actually being able to understand
Yeah.
Like, our ancestors didn't just like go, oh, it's cold in Nova Scotia, so we're going to go to Louisiana.
Right.
They bounced around the Atlantic seaboard for 30 years. You know, just being thrown here and thrown there.
Cast out.
You know, like, oh, we'll go back to France. France didn't want them.
Right.
You're not French.
Right.
You're not us anymore. You speak French, but you're not us. You know, and going from port to port, sitting in Boston Harbor, and, you know, it's like over half of the people who were expelled from Nova Scotia died in transit.
That's right.
Yeah.
And you're not talking about like comfy situation.
No, they were in slave ships. They put them in. They used the same ships that brought slaves to the New World to ship the Acadians out.
And I'm happy. I know
You're driving down the road, everything is going just fine. You're listening to the new episode of Find the Good News in your car, and you're all stoked about trying out this zipper merge thing you've been hearing about, when all of a sudden you hear that sickening tap on your windshield that's just a little too loud. I've got some bad news for you. You've just got yourself a rock chip. Unfortunately, I've got some worse news. If you don't take care of that rock chip, it's going to turn into a crack. But I do have some good news too. You don't have to have a rock chip or a crack, because I've got a way for you to take care of it ASAP. If you go to asapglassco.com right now, you can stop that chip from winding across your windshield like the Calcasieu River. I used to be terrible about getting a rock chip, saying I'll take care of that later, and then later turns into this irritating crack that just spreads from one side of my windshield to the other. I should have taken care of it ASAP by scheduling a repair with ASAP Glass. ASAP Glass is local, right here in Sulphur, Louisiana, and they're mobile. Even better, you can get a quote right from your mobile phone at asapglassco.com. ASAP Glass is owned and operated by two of my best friends, lifelong friends, Dan and Kayla Smith. Dan the Glass Man will make sure his team of glass technicians gets to your job ASAP and make sure it's done right so you can keep that windshield crack out of sight. If you do get that rock chip and you don't take care of it ASAP, that's okay. ASAP Glass does complete windshield replacements. Remember, ASAP Glass is mobile, so you don't have to worry about finding time to drop your vehicle off at their shop. You get your quote at asapglassco.com. Make your appointment with Kayla, and then before long, an ASAP Glass van is on its way to your location. That's it. I know you're probably looking at a rock chip right now. Don't wait. Take care of it ASAP. Go to asapglassco.com on your mobile device and get a quote. That's asapglassco.com. And make sure to tell Dan and Kayla you heard about ASAP Glass on Find the Good News. Yeah, Adley was saying that. He said, you're talking about putting in infected blankets and things like that on the ships with them, to really just eradicate these folks.
Yeah.
We don't want you, your garbage, get out of here. Giving their land to somebody else. It was common. And that's hard to hear, and we watch those same types of things happening, I don't know, now in other parts of the world. I mean, even, like Syria. I mean, my gosh, what a horror show, but who wants, everybody's like, I don't want them.
Right. Well, the Acadians, the only reason they were welcomed in Louisiana was because the Spanish wanted a buffer between their territory and British territory. A human buffer.
Yeah.
So they put French-speaking Catholics. They're like, okay, well, you're Catholic, so we're cool with you.
Yeah, right.
But you're not Spanish. So here you go. You guys go settle all the land that no man's land.
Right.
Where we are now.
Right.
So, I mean, the Acadians were tossed around and they were used. They ended up in even parts of South America, just like labor.
Yeah. A lost people.
Yeah.
And now it's a culture we celebrate.
Yeah. It's a testament that they were able to hold on to it. I think there's something to that whole idea of genetic memory.
Yeah, no, I do too.
There's you'll find that a lot of people of Acadian ancestry, Cajun culture, they don't like to leave home.
Yeah.
It's almost like we finally found a good place.
Yeah. It's interesting, man. It kind of makes me think of my great grandfather, Emile Theriot. He was probably like my son with my dad, you know, he died when I was 5 years old, so I didn't really know him that well, but I do have memories of him. And when I was an adult and I was really going through some spiritual things and I started looking at my own ancestry, I was like, you know, he was a Catholic, and you know, you would hear these stories about him walking 8-9 miles to go to the little church here in Sulphur where he would walk to, or he would wait on the go walk down to one of the old dirt roads, and a friend would pick him up. So you're talking about a lot of work to go do this, to participate in this faith that he was a part of. And so for no other reason than that, I was curious, because I said, you know, this wasn't passed on to me. He didn't pass it on to my grandmother. All I had were some of his belongings, so that's how I kind of knew. But then I had those few little stories. And I had went out to his grave in a little cemetery north of Sulphur, and I was wandering out there, and I hadn't been out there since I was 5 years old, you know. And at the day of his funeral, that was the last time.
Yeah.
And I went out there, and I was walking around, and there was this old grave in the back that had a moss-covered Marian statue on top of it, and it caught my eye, and it was his grave. And I went out there and sat out there, and I thought, you know, there's value here that hasn't been transferred, and maybe not the whole thing is for me, but I still want to know what about it made my great-grandfather. What was he looking at? What was he going? What was he seeking?
Yeah.
What was that pillar that gave him something that he was willing to do all that stuff for? And had this little medal that he had pinned to his uniform in World War One. He was a doughboy, and it was all beat up and scratched, and you couldn't even see the features on it, but I still have it. And I think about him like, man, this was with him. It was very important to him. It got him through a war. It got him through the Great Depression. He raised my grandmother by himself, you know, walking everywhere, you know, spoke French. Again, not passed on, but it's that DNA, man. Like, I feel like when I go, I just felt it when I was touching those objects of his. I was like, there's some kind of residue here.
Yeah.
You know, in me.
Yeah.
That I want to know why.
Right.
You know, and it was enough to kind of spark some interest and a curiosity and a desire, I guess. You know, and that's why, and I say all that to mean, that's why I can't look at the stranger at the border and go, hey, ain't my problem, man. Yeah, sorry you was born in a crappy place. Sorry things are going bad in your country.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, it's difficult.
Yeah.
You know, I just know as a father,
oh man,
there isn't anything I wouldn't do to put my children in the best possible situation that I could get them into.
Yeah.
You know, and look, I get when people say, well, there's a process. I understand that, and there needs to be a process for sure. But if your house was on fire and you went for help and the fire department said, okay, we got you, it's going to be 7 to 8 years
right
before we can process the paperwork,
right,
you would take care of it yourself.
Yeah.
And that's what they're doing. They're obviously desperate. Everybody knows America's immigration policies. They know the laws, and they're doing it anyway. They're trying to get over here anyway. Are there some bad people? Of course. There are bad people everywhere.
And there's bad people here.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
I mean, I was working in Jennings when all of that Jeff Davis 8 stuff was going on.
Yeah.
You know, like there were kids I taught whose siblings were some of the people who died.
Really?
Yeah, that's yeah, that's a possible serial killer right there in Jeff Davis Parish.
Yeah.
You know, what you gonna do about him?
Yeah.
He's still out there.
Yeah.
Whoever.
Right.
Yeah,
Exactly.
if that's what it is.
Right. Yeah. No, I think that to cluster a whole group of people together and say they're bad or whatever, dangerous, evil, that's just not the right way to be.
No.
We don't do that every day.
Right.
In our day-to-day lives anyway. I guess maybe some of us do, and maybe sometimes we do. I don't know. I say that out loud, and I realize that's maybe not fair. I mean, to some degree, we go, oh, don't drive in that neighborhood, or,
right.
You know, that's a bad part of town.
Something I try to think about, especially at being a teacher, is that everyone's experience is different. Not everybody's working with the same, like, we're not all starting from the same line. You know, everybody has, just like you have a different nose than mine, you have a different brain than mine. And that's just the reality of it. And there's some things that people just can't, they don't have enough brain space to deal with that, to think outside of what's going on in front of me right now.
Yeah.
Some people are just working.
Yeah.
And they're just
surviving.
They're just surviving.
Right.
They're just doing everything they can. And so when you're, that's the problem that I have had. And like, I consider myself a liberal, but that's the problem I've had with the Democratic Party, is that there's been a whole subset of people that they've just been like,
yeah,
you know,
I get it. Yeah.
Middle and lower class white people, they just kind of go, oh, you don't really have problems. Yeah. And you ignored them and they voted against you.
Right. Yeah. No, I get it.
Because they do have problems.
You're right.
We all have problems. And we should be wanting to help everyone. Everyone. You know? And it's become, the older I get, the more I realize how I don't like to say I'm a Democrat. I just don't. I'm liberal, for sure. But I'm open-minded enough to say, like, well, that's a good idea. That's a good idea. It doesn't really matter which side of the aisle it comes from.
Yeah, exactly. No, I get it. That's actually where I would classify myself as, that sounds fair. It sounds just. Mm-hmm. It sounds right. I've had to give myself markers, like, are they in alignment with certain things that I already believe about other things? Mm-hmm. You know, like, so Buddhism is a big thing for me, and I use it a lot to make my decisions, because I have to say, sometimes I can go, oh, I feel I have this high idea about this, and I think I have all the information, and then I realize later that I'm actually still poisoned by a lot of emotion.
Yeah.
You know, so my decision still is, I think I feel good about it, but it's really just a lot of my emotions adding a lot of icing to something. So when I can go to something like the Buddhist teachings that I've clung to for a long time that have worked, they act as a foundation for me to make a decision like that, you know. So then I can go, well, okay, let me put it through this lens, and then it helps me slow me down. Right. So then I can start to look at something, okay, now how do I feel about this through this lens? Well, I feel a little differently about it, you know.
I think as a culture, we don't look inward enough.
Yeah, no, I agree.
We definitely don't. Because that's when you start to fix things.
Inner work and outer work. As this podcaster I listened to, he's a comedian, but he made a comment one day. He said, you know, I was left as a child to do my own inner construction, you know, because his parents left, they didn't pay attention to him. They kind of left him out in the wild, so to speak. Yeah. And he said, now I'm a grown man, and I'm following some of these staircases I built, and they don't go anywhere. And I was like, dude, he's like, it's just a bunch of shoddy construction inside. Yeah. And he's like, I'm having to tear down walls. I'm having to rebuild rooms. He said, all this crap I built, it don't work because I was a kid. I didn't know. And that's what I know. My whole world was built on that. And now I'm an adult going, oh man, why am I going? Why do I keep doing this? Yeah. Why do I think this way? What staircase walks off the edge of the house? You know, I built this when I was a kid. I didn't know what I was doing. And I loved that because I was like, man, that's kind of all of us, right? I mean, we got all this sort of people who didn't have permits to be building stuff inside of us were on there building things.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's a great way to think about it. I know I didn't do well in college the first time around because I had some bad foundations from when I was in high school. I didn't have to do anything in high school. I graduated with like a 3.9, and I don't know if I ever studied for anything.
You just were good at it.
I was just good at it. You know, I played music, and I took my tests and whatever, you know. Like, I fell asleep during the ACT, and I still made a 26. 27. It was 27.
I wish my son probably would listen to this and be like, how can I do that? Because he has to work for every little point he makes.
Well, do really good on all the other parts, because I didn't do good on the part I fell asleep in. You know, and so when I got to college, it was like, oh, yeah, I'm just going to do music, and I'm just, no, you got to work.
Yeah.
Because I'm actually back in school right now. Yeah.
Really?
I'm getting certified as a music teacher, so I'm taking a few undergrad courses.
Right on.
And courses I took back then, the first time around, and I didn't do well in.
Yeah.
And now I'm taking classes, and I'm like, I should have just done this the first time. Like, I'm
No,
just
man.
like going through it. I'm just like knocking it down. I'm like, this is,
What does that say to you, too? I mean, I'm listening to you say that, and I go, isn't that awesome? And it starts to really tell you who you are, because you've been through all this stuff, you've made some decisions, you got a trajectory, and now you're going, okay, I'm going to go tighten this up, right? And what you choose to go tighten up tells a lot about what your true passion is.
well, I have an amazing opportunity with the school. A lot of people passed on that job because it's a part-time job. It's not a full-time position
Yeah.
yet.
Gotcha.
The high school is opening in fall of 2020, and then it will be a full-time position. I'll be at the middle school and the high school, both campuses. And I basically have the opportunity to create a band program and set it up to be successful for the next couple decades.
Wow, man. Yeah. That's the foundation you're setting. That's awesome.
So when that was coming down the line, and like, this is going to happen, it was like, okay, I don't want to just wing it. I want to do it to the best of my ability.
Yeah.
I want to have all the tools in the box, walk in prepared. I mean, there are going to be things that are going to surprise me. Always, even the most prepared educator is surprised by something every day.
Sure.
But I want to be surprised by things that should surprise me, and not by things that I should have already known what to do.
Yeah.
So that's why the opportunity came, and EDS is helping me with that, helping me pay for that to go to school, continuing education.
Yeah, man, that's great.
They're investing in me.
Yeah.
So I'm investing in them.
That's actually really awesome. So many people, I bet, would love to have something like that.
Yeah.
Where they go, man, they see what I'm doing. I like it here, and then they're just a synergy forms, and you'll start to really, become one thing. I mean,
you see a lot of public school teachers, even private school teachers, not necessarily public school, but they just they get jaded after a while. I've worked that job, not a teaching job, but I've worked that job where I was like, oh.
Yeah.
I'm just here for the money.
I would say this can be like that. I mean, I know we kind of run our own thing, but it can be like that because you get you get into contracts, you get in a set of clients, and they become your clients for many years. You don't have a lot of control over what the client culture is.
Right.
They have their own culture, and you may have a totally different culture, but as an extension of their team, it leaks in from the outside.
Okay. Yeah.
It's kind of like putting some fish in the fridge with some fruit, and you go to eat that apple and you taste, cod or whatever.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, well, it's an apple, but there's still got that cod, fishy skin. That would be the best way for me to describe our business. We're sort of plugging into all these different group cultures, and really my job, I'm the one who interfaces the most, and I have to bring that culture back, process it, and kind of plug it back in over here. But as a people watcher and observer, and being around that a lot of years, you begin to see that you're with a client for so long, and you go, man, that culture just really doesn't plug in well with who we are. We can do the work, and we do good work with you, but that it isn't really the best scenario.
Right.
So changing that is difficult. You get in a pattern, and it's like, okay, what would need to change for it to be better for the long haul, so you don't drive the wheels off of the thing. But you're in a situation where that is working. Those two things.
Oh, I'm so fortunate. I mean, I wake up every day, I'm just like, thank you.
Yeah,
to
gratitude,
whatever made this happen.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I mean, when I tell other teachers what's going on, they're like, man, you better never leave. And I'm like, I'm not going here.
Yeah, I like it here. I like this.
Awesome.
Yeah. No, you're right. I have some friends who are teachers, and my sister's a teacher, and she goes through a lot of what you've said, the same thing, that it isn't like that everywhere.
No, it's definitely not.
And you can kind of see it. I mean, I really do feel sorry in a way for a lot of educators, because my son tells me stuff. I think he's a pretty attentive kid. He pays attention, and we have some similar traits in that regard, and he probably overthinks things a lot like me. But when he shares things with me, I can almost peg it like this teacher has sort of accepted defeat.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? And I don't know
Yeah.
how else to say it. It's
Yeah. Unfortunate in that where I work, the environment is just great.
yeah,
You know, we have some advantages. We're a small school. The class sizes are small.
yeah,
It's a family.
yeah,
You know, we start pre-K at age 2. So my oldest daughter has been going to school there since I've started working there.
that's awesome, man. Yeah,
I get to see her every day. Even the days when she's not with me and she's with her mom half the week, I still see her every day.
yeah.
Yeah. That's not something that happens everywhere.
No,
I can literally just walk right down the hall, look in the window. Oh, she's napping. All right, cool. I'll
Yeah.
back out. You know, and it's fine. You know, I'll go have lunch with her if I want to.
yeah,
You know.
that's nice.
Yeah. And like all of my students, my middle school students know who she is. Because I think there's maybe like a little over 300 kids in the entire school from pre-K 2 through 8th grade.
Yeah,
Everyone knows each other. All the parents know each other. You know, it's a cool, it's just a family vibe. You walk in, you're just like, yeah, it's cool.
there must be something different about teaching music to kids, because you and Mickey Smith, he was on the show, and I'm hearing a lot of the same.
Mickey and I went to school together.
Did you?
Yeah,
Okay.
we were at McNeese at the same time. And actually,
okay.
that band I was in with Brian,
Yeah.
Mickey was in that band as well.
Oh, right on.
The Groove
Okay.
Nights.
The Groove Nights. I remember the Groove Nights.
Yeah. That was me and Brian.
Okay,
and
right on.
Ray and Mickey, and Stratton, David,
Yeah.
Mike. Yeah.
That's wild, man. But y'all have a similar attitude about the whole thing.
Yeah.
And I wonder, if I was sitting across from a high school geometry teacher, would I have the same?
Well, we are different as music teachers because we are multi-year teachers.
Oh, yeah, you're
Yeah.
the kids are with you.
I
Yeah.
mean, so let's just say I start teaching kids in 5th grade. Now that we're going to have a high school, I could potentially have a kid from 5th grade from age 10 till 18.
so you're in a mentor role.
Yes.
That's a totally different thing.
In a way that's different than a geometry teacher or
Yeah, I
English
get
teacher.
that. That's right.
They teach them for a year, then they move on to the next thing.
Yeah.
But I'm there the whole time. I'm watching them grow. I can share things with their current teachers when they're having problems. Oh, well, he's kind of like this.
Yeah.
She's like that.
Right. You can get a better pulse on the kid. You can know what's going on in their life.
And you're more invested in them.
Yeah, I get that. That makes sense. It's interesting because last week on the show, I didn't realize we were going to be talking about education so much. Weird how themes just kind of blend together. But my high school speech teacher was here last week on the show, and it was really a treat for me. But that word mentor, I mean, that's what she was. I still, to this day, utilize in a very tangible, workable way things that I learned in that class because she was just that kind of teacher. But I had her for two years because there was speech 1 and speech 2. And now granted, that's not the same long term that you're talking about, but and then we had extracurricular activities like theater, spring production, debate competitions. There was a lot of opportunity for her to be with us outside of school too. So there was just a different relationship. You end up building a rapport with those kids.
Teaching the humanities is special because it's funny. I was up late last night writing my philosophy of music education paper. So like a lot of these things, I was.
It's right there, man.
There.
It's like fresh. Yeah.
The things we teach are what make humans human.
That's why they're called
the humanities. That's the operative word there. You can teach a computer how to calculate something. You can even they've programmed computers to compose music in a they'll just kind of feed all of Beethoven's music into this computer.
Yeah, and it learns
it sees the patterns because a lot of what Beethoven did was mathematical. And there's a lot of that there, and it'll come out and create something that's like that's like Beethoven, but it's not.
Yeah,
it's created by a machine. You can tell. And there's creativity, I think, in the workforce of the future is got to be at the forefront because there's so many of those jobs that we're going to start losing over the next few decades to automation, AI and stuff. And we need to be able to have people who are creative to be able to work with those things.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, it's coming down the pipeline. It just is.
Yeah.
It's not here yet, but
No, I think you're right. I mean, you read these websites that have like all the statistics about the disappearing jobs, where the first jobs to go, and even our job. I mean, the software we use for design, Adobe, that company, they're developing right now AI, implementing it into the software to where it would potentially do a lot of the job. And,
Right.
and I think if we don't value design and creativity, and we're willing to accept it, well, I just need something. And I see that a lot, even in our industry, where someone says, look, well, let me back up and see if I can explain this right. So someone hires us and they say, hey, I need a brand for my business, right? And you go, okay, well, and I do the math. How many hours is it going to take? We're going to have some meetings. We're going to do some sketching. We'll run through a few designs. We're trying to make the best brand possible. The element that's special in there is us as human beings interacting with that client. But what's happened in our industry is that less and less do people care as much about that human interaction. They're like, well, I can go online and just say, hey, I'm opening a donut shop. I mean, that's what I picked. A donut shop, and I'm opening in a week. I need a logo. They don't want a human interaction. They just want something that they can stick on something.
Right.
And you can get that for $100. And you go, well, the seeking out clients that actually don't want that don't want to just have, hey, this is as good as that. They want the human interaction. They want to have a team. They want to be able to brainstorm with you and be involved in the process. You can't get that from AI.
right.
But I am seeing that get thinner and thinner. The seeking out of the human interaction, people. I mean, even like something like food delivery services. I mean, I don't use them, but I can see that even that sentiment is sort of there. It's like, well, I don't want to have to go. I don't want to have to go be around people and get in line with people, and hear other people. I just want to be able to press this, get the thing, and never.
Right.
It's creating this sort of sanitized life.
Yep. I mean, it's been said before, but we're more connected now than ever, and we're more separate than we've ever been.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. Well, it sounds like to me, though, the value in what you're doing is the connection, and it is being there. I mean, no AI is going to be able to do what you're going to do.
No.
They could pass information on,
Yeah.
But
And technology is incredible. It's a wonderful tool for music. We have these two instruments called mallet stations, which are like marimbas,
okay.
but they're synthesizers. They're MIDI controllers.
Yeah, okay.
So it's just laid out in like a 3-octave pad. Hook it up to your MacBook or iPad or whatever, and you can make it sound like any instrument you want.
Wow.
Yeah. They just came out. I got a grant. I applied for a grant with the Junior League. Thank you, Junior League. And I got it. And I bought 2 of them for EDS. And so these, I mean, you show like a little bell kit to a kid, and they're like, that's kind of lame. Ding, ding, ding. They don't really get into it,
Yeah.
But you show them this thing, and you're like, all right, we're going to set this to synthesizer. We're going to play the theme to Stranger Things. And the kids are like, what? I'm like, yeah, go ahead and play it. And it starts doing all this stuff, and they're like,
Blown away.
So like we're practicing scales, and I just set it to different sounds, and I'm like, all right, but they're just playing their scales.
Yeah.
But they're really getting after it because they're like, this sounds really cool.
Yeah, it adds that level of professionalism that they're like used to hearing. And
I run it through the PA system.
Yeah.
Loud, and big. That's not something that they were. They're in 5th grade and they're getting to experience it.
Yeah.
I'm hooking them.
Yeah.
That's something that wasn't available 20 years ago.
Yeah. It's interesting. I keep bringing my conversations with my kid up, but yesterday we were listening to, after on our way back from plant shopping, we were listening to the Back to the Future soundtrack, and the song Sandman came on, and my son was like, man, there's like no instruments in this song. And I'm like, well, there's like a drum and a guitar, but that's it. And he was like, that's all their voices. And I was like, yeah. And he was like, you know, it's so different than today. Like, you can become like a pop musician, and like there's all this stuff that happens to that's done to the voice, you know. And he's like, I guess I never really thought about, like, back then they just kind of harmonized and they were doing all the sounds. I was like, yeah. I said, there's definitely a level of humanity in that's missing from a lot of things that you hear now. It's like cool to have all that stuff, but there's something really special about that.
It's funny. I remember I mentioned to you about ideas for having a podcast of my own.
Yeah. I was hoping you would bring that up. Yeah.
Talking about music, I've had this idea for a while, and I wanted to call it Country Music Songs That Don't Suck. Because I feel like the last 25 years or so, I would call like the modern era of country music.
Yeah.
There have been some pretty terrible pieces of art put out there. And look, art is subjective. Like, obviously there are people that like a lot of that stuff. But there's some things I just feel are not objective. And sometimes a song is just bad.
Yeah.
But sometimes a song is good. And it doesn't matter what genre it is.
Yeah.
You know, and there's a lot. So that's the era I grew up listening to, because my uncle was writing music in that era. You know, I got to hear stories about country music artists and their processes and songwriters and stuff like that. He learned to write from a famous songwriter named Harlan Howard.
Okay.
And Harlan Howard he's attributed this quote, and he says, a song has 4 things: 3 chords and the truth. Huh. Yeah, it's just like, you're like, of course, yeah. But that's who my uncle learned to write music from. He just kind of like followed him around Nashville and like apprenticed with him, I guess, in a way. And so my uncle's best songs were always songs that were like that.
Okay.
Pretty simple in musical like composition, but the lyrical content was something real, was always based in reality.
Yeah.
You know, so I kind of want to like go and like cultivate like over the like last 20 years of country music, like that song's a good song. It wouldn't matter if it was released as a pop song, a rock song.
Yeah,
it's just good.
Yeah,
because there are some gems out there that are great songs that for whatever reason just didn't get a lot of traction. Yeah, you know, like it was like a one-hit wonder or something like that. Yeah, but it's great. It's a great song.
Yeah,
you know.
No, I hear you. I grew up kind of in an older generation of country too. I mean, what my dad listened to and what my mom listened to was what I still listen to today, and I find that a lot actually. My son asked me that, and he goes, "You don't really listen to a lot of new stuff." I said, "Yeah, I have a harder time finding new stuff that really hits me the way that older stuff does." But you know, grew up on Johnny Cash, Jim Reeves, stuff like that. So for me, that's kind of the country music that I think of when someone says country. That's where I go. I find it almost unrecognizable in what is considered, I guess, country when I turn on the radio.
A lot of what you hear now, we've gotten away from the singer-songwriter aspect of country. Now it's like there are teams that write songs and then they match it to an artist.
Yeah, okay.
It's an image. It's an image.
That's right. They're peddling songs. That's right. You hear that a lot. What was it? What's oh gosh, what's her name? She ended up being quite a musician or an artist herself. God, man, I'm gonna draw a blank. But she was a songwriter for a long time, and was one of her songs. Nobody wanted it, and so she was like, "Well, I'll just do it." See ya. Yeah. And then it was like she was like, "Well, I'll just do it." She did it, and it's like she just blew up. Now she's her own. Right. But yeah, I didn't realize that for a long time. I was ignorant to that people are out there peddling songs. You know, I'd heard I was listening to a podcast and they were talking about what's the song off of The Breakfast Club, Don't You Forget About Me. Yeah. Anyway, I'm drawing a blank on who ended up singing that, but I was watching one of those Spotify stories. Have you noticed that? So they have the little stories on Spotify, and it was talking about that song, and they said that it was being peddled, and they had put it to everybody, and they thought that they were going to sell it to Billy Idol. And Billy Idol was like, "I'm not interested in that." Ends up being this huge hit, you know. And then for me, again, I was like, "Man, this has been going on a long time." I had no clue that people were just out there writing songs, trying to peddle them to.
That's how my uncle made his living.
It's wild, man.
I think he says he's written over 1,000 songs.
That's what's wild.
Yeah, I think he's had like 80 recorded.
That's something.
And like produced, and put out there.
I had no clue. Yeah, it seems to be fairly common.
And it's a different game now. Songwriters and record producers don't make as much money as they used to because album sales just aren't what they used to be.
Sure. Well, you got too many other ways to get the music.
Exactly. He made way more money in the early 90s off of a song than he would now.
Yeah. Just
because someone doesn't have to buy an album anymore.
No.
Just buy one song. It's easy. And a single today costs the same as it did in the 90s. It's weird how music has done that. It does that with the performative music as well. Generally today, like $100 a man is like pretty much like the going rate for playing music.
Really?
And that's what it was in the 80s.
Nothing's changed. Not much. Mm-mm. Yeah, I was talking to like Ben Von Duke. He was on the show, and one of the things that was interesting is his bands really kind of got a line in the sand of just when they perform, it's all original stuff. Mm-hmm. That's a big deal to him. And, he was pretty hard-lined about it. I mean, he was just like, we're just not going to do covers. Mm-hmm. And he said, we could probably have like, go play Scannerd and go play all these hits. He said, and make a lot of money, mm-hmm. going to play events. He said, but it's just not what we're going to do.
Yeah, same here. Yeah, I just won't do that stuff. With the Cajun music stuff, I'll play stuff that everyone knows because that's more of it's a niche market. It's a cultural thing. Like, these are traditional songs. We play those songs. So I play with Brittany Fonts.
Okay.
And The Sauce. That's like The Sauce is like the band, and Brittany's
I got you. Yeah.
So it's her original stuff, and we do covers as well, but they're not the covers that people would expect to hear. It's just like, I like this song, so we're gonna play it, and it's obscure, and they'll probably think we wrote it because they haven't heard it. Yeah, that's the kind of stuff we'll do.
Don't you like that though, man?
I love it.
Whenever you ever go listen to a band, and then they break out a cover of something from like a obscure B-side, and you're like. And you're kind of looking around the crowd going, hey, this is that song I like. Yeah. And you look around and like everybody's going, what the heck is this? Yeah. But you get that kind of connection for a second. It happens to me sometimes with the Police, because when I was in high school, I don't remember how I got into listening to the Police, but there was some song, you'd heard the hits, of course, but somebody was playing something somewhere. Anyway, I was like, what is that? And they're like, that's the Police. Well, their big box set had just come out, Message in a Box. And so I was like, oh man, I remember going to the mall. It was expensive. I saved my money, had all those CDs in there. And dude, I listened to that doggone box set 2 pieces. And then now, every once in a while, I'll hear somebody play, like Canary in a Coal Mine. Something just obscure that's wasn't one of their bigger hits. It's just cool. It's cool to, you can tell that band, they had somebody in that band was like, hey, I like this song. We're just going to play it, Yeah, that's pretty cool.
And I'm happy. I know it.
This episode's Fishing for Goodies Fishbowl sponsor is Brimstone Museum and Henning Cultural Center in Sulphur, Louisiana. I don't know what you look for when you travel, but one of the things I look for when I'm putting together my itinerary is a unique museum or gallery in the city I'm traveling to. I do this almost every time I go to a new city, but if I'm being honest, I'm guilty of not always doing that very thing right here at home in Sulphur, Louisiana. That's really a shame, because we have one of the most interesting, historically relevant, and culturally rich corners in any city in the country about 2 minutes from where I'm sitting right now. I'm talking about the Brimstone Museum and Henning Cultural Center. Have you ever really thought about why our city is named Sulphur? They've got a permanent exhibit on the history of the sulfur industry that answers that simple question and more. You really get a full scope of just how important the sulfur mining industry was to the development of Southwest Louisiana and the impact it had on the rest of the world. Yes, the rest of the world. On the same property, right next door to the museum, is the Henning Cultural Center, presenting some of the most interesting, modern, and culturally relevant local art shows I've ever seen. My dear friend Tom Trahan and the Brimstone Historical Society have really worked hard to give us this treasure, and it's a multifaceted jewel that I plan to take advantage of more often. You don't have to wonder what their hours are, or how to get there, or what shows are coming up. Just go to brimstonemuseum.org like I did, and subscribe to their mailing list right there on the homepage. That's brimstonemuseum.org. Tom will make sure you start getting the announcements for each and every new show at the gallery. But you don't have to wait for the mail to arrive to enjoy this historical local treasure. You don't have to be guilty, like me, of overlooking a local wonder that conveniently sits next to the Grove, one of the most beautiful walking parks in southwest Louisiana. Drop in and say hi to Tom for me. Tour the museum and center, and make sure to tell Tom that you heard about Brimstone Museum on Find the Good News. Now, let's take that dive in the fishbowl. So, dude, do you know about the fishbowl?
No.
Okay. Oh, really? Oh, this will be fun. Okay, so the fishbowl is full of questions that I've put in there, that people who listen to the show have put in there, and then there's some cards in there too that have like some what ifs or what have you. So every guest draws 3 items out of there, and then you read them, and then we talk about them.
Okay.
So it's kind of a mystery fortune cookie type thing. So anyway, you can draw your first question. Like I said, there's cards, there's all kinds of stuff in there. You can pull whatever you want out.
What is legal that you think should be illegal?
It's like the opposite of what we usually ask.
Yeah.
We usually want to know what should be legal that's illegal.
That's a tough one.
I know. Yeah, so what is legal that you think should be illegal?
Man, I don't know how to go with this one because I kind of err on this the side of like more things should be legal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of our problems are because there are minor things that we hold people accountable for that just don't make sense.
I actually agree. That's a hard question for me too, because I always answer it takes a lot to explain, but my thing is and I've said this to my wife 100 times. I said, I don't care what you make illegal. It won't matter or stick until people have it inside them. You can make a law, you can make something illegal, but we're going to keep doing the thing. It'll just be illegal.
Yeah.
It isn't changing.
Yeah.
You know, and somebody told me one time, said, well, that's not true. You know, we have lots of laws. And they were just going through some of these examples, and one of them was like, speed limits. I said, but it doesn't matter. People still don't follow the speed limit. Yeah. People still don't use turn signals. People still, there's you can go down any of those. See, I'm with you on that. That's a hard one.
Yeah, I mean, there are laws against murder, but people murder people every day.
Yeah, and if it weren't, if it was, what's the movie?
It's not like it's a hidden law. Like, I didn't know that was illegal.
Right.
They know.
Right. Yeah, I know. That's a tough one. I agree. I don't have a working knowledge of every law either. I mean, it's very difficult to go, because you see those posts from time to time where it's like, here's some weird laws that are on the books that you may not know about, that are old or ancient,
right,
a bygone era.
I think in some states, cockfighting might still be illegal, and that should be illegal.
Yeah, I would say
it was legal in Louisiana until just a few years ago.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, you'd see all those when you're driving out to
I have a neighbor who raises fighting roosters still.
Really?
Like, he has a bunch of them, and sometimes my dog will bark at him, and he'll get mad at me, say he's gonna call the cops. I'm like, really? You're gonna call the cops on me, dude?
Yeah.
My dog harassing your illegal fighting rooster thing you got going on over here, man. Come on, dude.
I think that kind of tiptoes into something, I guess, as a general rule, any law that allows violence of any kind on another, I think anything like that should possibly be revisited.
On something that has no say-so in the matter.
Yeah.
If people want to fight, you want to be a fight. I enjoy watching professional fighting. That's fine. That's two people being like, yeah, I'm a professional. Pay me. I'm going to put on a show. It's fine. But animals and stuff, no. Yeah, no,
I agree. I was listening to a podcast about this woman. She's a Zen Buddhist teacher, and she was talking about what actually had changed her. What really was her first big memory, what opened her compassion up. And she was with somebody somewhere, and they were at a laboratory where they're doing animal testing, and there was these little monkeys, and she said, they'd sawed its head off, the top of its skull, and all these electrodes in its brain. And she said, it was chained to this cage, and she said when she just saw it, looked in its eyes, she just fell to the floor. She was like, I couldn't comprehend that I was a member of the species that does this. Yeah. And she said, for her, it was like a big opening. It like really just changed her. And I was like, yeah, I get that. I've had some moments like that. And so that kind of thing, yeah, to me, if we're going to make a law, then hey, you know, that's where it needs to be, is in those categories.
I like that. Animal cruelty. Animal testing, like, they shouldn't do that.
Yeah, we can. I think we ought to be moving past
We're
that. We're
smart enough, I think.
Yeah,
to figure some stuff out.
Most of the things that we're testing on those creatures anyway are luxuries. They're just vanity things.
Right.
And that to me just, you know, and I know that's not 100% true. Somebody could defute that. I'm just making a blanket statement. But yeah, cruelty of any kind, let's get rid of it.
Yeah.
Right on.
Cool.
I don't know if we answered it, but we got somewhere with it.
Something. Yeah. Are you a pacifist? No.
Oh.
I'm not a pacifist.
Okay.
I've had to defend myself several times in my life. I was a bartender for a long time.
Yeah.
I've had to, you know, I've had to knock a couple people out, carry people out the bar. It's part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think violence should ever be the first response or the first jump to, like, oh, I'm just gonna hit this guy.
Yeah.
Cause
you're not a chest bumper, like immediately going into like
not at all.
You want some of this?
Because that always situations like that escalate. And if your first reaction is violence, it's only going to get worse from there.
I agree. Yeah.
You know, if you could start at a point where, hey man, calm down, dude. Hey, what's going on?
Yeah.
You all right, man? Hey,
Diffuse it.
Maybe you shouldn't have any more drinks, man. It's just calm down. You know, you're kind of letting them know. You're giving them the vibe, like, I just want to make sure you're okay. This is about you and everyone else in here. Just be safe. Start that way. And then if it does go up from there, then the next step usually isn't something violent. Yeah, but yeah, if you start right away, like a guy does something and you're like, you push him, nothing good is going to come of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's kind of how it is online sometimes. Yeah. Yeah. I don't want to say I don't. I try not to get involved in things that look like they're going to be volatile. Even like that conversation we were in, you could tell that the other person just sort of had a solidified encampment. It wasn't nothing we were going to say was going to change that.
Right.
It already foxholed, you know. But you can kind of see when things are going to get out of hand and blow up. Or sometimes they do, and even if you aren't trying to. But out in the living, breathing world, I definitely agree. I think you have to defend yourself. I think you should you do have to defend. I don't necessarily believe, for me, in arming up, though, like expecting a fight.
Right.
You know, I think that can be overdone. I think in a way, we kind of almost see that even in our country.
If you go out looking for it, you're going to find it.
Yeah, it's self-perpetuating.
Yes.
It's like you're building the reality. It's like, well, we got all these weapons. You know, we kind of need to use them now. So you're like looking for a fight. I think we even see that, and this might be, again, touchy for some folks, but I mean, if you really do read the news, I think we see that even in law enforcement. You know, I mean, getting all these cool toys. I mean, got to use them things. It'd be nice we got this battering ram. It'd be nice to go knock somebody's door down with the thing every once in a while. We got these flashbangs. It'd be nice to be able to throw one in a house every once in a while. We got these. You just see what I mean? And I'm not saying that's always the way it is, but when you see a story like that, where, you know, there's a court order, you know, and they sign it in the middle of the night, and these no-knock things where they go in people's homes and just blow in there like it's World War III. And you're going, that is like full-blown military coming in your home. And then come to find out, it was the wrong house, or, well, that tip was no good, this isn't accurate. That, to me, I think we've kind of moved into that zone of like, well, we got the gear, we need to use it. You know, we're prepared for this, we're amped up on it. And I think it's seductive, man. You know?
And that goes back to the turning inward and trying to figure out why we feel the way we feel about certain things.
Yeah.
You know, I am totally on board with the phrase "Make America Great Again."
Oh, yeah, it's not a bad phrase.
No, it's awesome.
Yeah. But what does great mean?
And I think part of that is holding ourselves accountable for things. Because that's the only way to improve. If you just think like, I'm perfect, whatever changes?
Right.
Nothing.
Right. I agree with that, man. That is a good thing to bring up. That slogan in and of itself, make America great again. You're right. I mean, if you really sit and think of that, I'll take it completely off of the context of the way it's being presented to us today. If you heard that and it was like, well, and really dive into it, what does that mean? What made us great? If you only go into look at it from an economic standpoint or production standpoint, or if you're talking about the heyday of, post World War II industry, all of that kind of stuff, and I think that might be where it's getting wrapped up in. There's so many other things that were wonderful about this country that do make us great. I think it's getting overshadowed. Yeah, I never really thought about it that way. It'd be nice if we could take that saying back and make it mean something different.
To me, like, I want that. I want America to be great again. So why shouldn't I want things to be better? Now, I think everyone feels that way. Just everybody has different ideas about what should be better or what better means.
Yeah.
Is better for some people, isn't better for other people.
Right.
It's a crazy situation where we have what, 340 million people that live in America. That's a lot of people.
Yeah.
And
in a lot of different circumstances.
I mean, if you look at it, each state is basically a country.
Yeah.
They have their own unique situations. Like, cultural norms in South Louisiana are not going to fly in New York, and vice versa. It's just different. Like, I had a friend from California that was just amazed at how we drove everywhere.
Yeah.
She's from San Francisco. She was like, you guys drive everywhere.
Everywhere, yeah.
And I was like, you don't? She's like, no. She's like, I don't even own a car. Most of my friends don't own cars.
Right.
We use public transport. We carpool. It's like, none of us, like 5 people going to the same place. We all drive our own car.
Yeah. Well, really, you're right. I mean, you can look just around here and go, everything. And I have a thing with lines and being jammed up. It just kind of bugs me. Probably more than bugs me. But those are thoughts I have. Like, how many people are going to be there? How's the parking? It's constantly in my head. Like, is it going to be hard to park? It's going to be hard to park. I mean, I can't even tell you how much that ping pong ball's rattling around up there. And you're right. It's like, we're not built around it. We don't build for it. If anything, our vehicles get bigger down here. I mean, I'm guilty. My truck's way too big. That's parking again. I go, where am I going to park this thing? Am I even going? Yeah. Sometimes I think that thought, well, I guess I can't go. I have nowhere to park.
I guess with all of that, I would say that I think everyone has the best interest of us in mind. It's just we aren't all on the same page as to what that is.
Yeah. Well, and you said something earlier in our talk about a lot of us are just surviving too. And I mean, there are some really great voices out in our community and that are giving us good information and really motivating us to make some changes. But it's hard to ask somebody who's just struggling to put working 60, 70 hours a week at a job that maybe doesn't even pay that great, single parent household, whatever it may be, all these different factors, and asking them to go, you need to stop doing this and stop doing that and make this change. Well, it gets expensive. It really does, and they can't do it. They're just trying to give their kids or even themselves. I mean, heck, who knows what the situation is.
Right.
Yeah, it's tough, man. It's just very kaleidoscopic. It's like,
empathy. You just gotta have more empathy.
Yeah, I agree. That's good. All right, you got one more question.
All right. Has someone given you a last chance, and for what? Yeah.
Oh.
So, my mentor now I would call him my mentor now. His name's Dr. Lonnie Benoit. He's the head of the music department at McNeese.
Okay.
And he came to the school as a professor of percussion studies. He was like 29 years old when he first got there. This is 2004, maybe. Not much older than us, really. And he and I became friends. He kind of became my mentor, and like even through all that, like I wasn't doing that well in school. I was kind of messing around, blah blah blah, all that stuff. He's part of the reason why I'm back in school now.
Really?
Like I said, we're best friends. We watch every Saints game together. That's our thing. You know, like whenever I was doing chemo, the one day of the week I got out of the house was to go to his house on Sundays to watch the Saints game with him and my friends.
Yeah.
Yeah, like when the Saints won the Super Bowl, we're all crying. I was the only person who wasn't drinking because I was doing chemo, so I couldn't drink, but I was still crying. You know, it was a cool moment. And you know, with all this stuff with the new high school coming around and stuff, he was like, "Hey, man, look. If you don't do this, if you don't come back to school and get this certification, like someone's going to try and take your job." You know, they're going to come along and they're going to say, "I have all the credentials."
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah, and they're going to try and convince somebody on that board or whatever to try and take your job. He's like, maybe they won't be successful, but you have to do this now, and I can help you now because he's now he's the head of the department. He can help me. He's like, but you have to do it now, and if you don't do this now, that's it.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think I can help you anymore. So I was like, well, saddle up.
Yeah. That's interesting. I like the way you framed that, because a lot of times when you think of last chances, it's like you've done something wrong and I'm giving you one more chance and then that's it. I'm cutting you off. That's like one way to look at that question. But I like what you did there. Somebody actually kind of preemptively gave you a piece of advice. It's different. It's more positive. It's not it's not a punishment or a you've done. I don't know. I guess I framed that differently, and what you just shared to me, I like that. Yeah. It's like saying, "Hey, you need to do this." It's more. It's motivating. Yeah. Yeah.
That's how it felt. I was like, what he was telling me was, "Look, man, you're an adult. You're a 35-year-old grown man, 2 kids. You're a business owner, and you're a teacher, and I still think you can do this. With as busy as you are, you can do it."
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah. If he thinks I can do it, then I can do it, because he's been around it.
And he's willing to help you.
He's willing to help me.
God, think about how many times
he's putting himself out there.
Yeah.
You know.
So easy to tell people, you need to change. You need to do this. You need to do that, and then go home. But when how nice is that when somebody's like, "Hey, you need to do this, and I'm going to help you.
Yeah.
I'm gonna help build. I'm going to give you a hand. And I'll be here for you." They're not just sitting over there giving you advice and then going to bed.
Right.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, he's never been that guy. He's always put himself out there.
And I like that, actually. That makes me really self-reflect on some things and go, I know I'm guilty of that, telling somebody, "Man, you really need to do this." And I'm going, "All right, I'm going to check out now. See you later." But to actually say, I'm going to walk. It came up on another episode, the word accompaniment. I'm going to accompany you on your journey. I'm going to be there. I'm not going to do it for you, but I'll be there to help you.
I mean, and
support you.
That relates back to music, because a lot of times you have an accompanist.
There you go.
Mispronounced that terribly.
But no, I get what you're saying.
Yeah, you have someone who's playing, like, it's usually your teacher who plays accompaniment.
Yeah.
While you perform your solos or whatever.
Oh, yeah, they're there as a foundation. You're still the star of the show. You're still front and center. Yeah. How much value is that? And in a way, like you said, I mean, being a teacher, that's where you want to get, right? I mean, to where you watch each of your students get to that stage where all they need is just accompaniment, you know, and then they can become somebody who can accompany somebody else. Well, that sounds beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if everything we could do in life would be like that.
Yeah.
I think all that takes is just getting out of me. Like, what's happening to me, and this is about me, and I am the center of my solar system, and it's all about what I want and who I am, and how does this affect what I'm doing, and all those words I keep saying. I've tried to get to where I watch how many times a day do I say I, how many times a day do I say me, and then look at the occurrences of when I do. what's the context? Is it bad? Did I go, well, then they told me this, and then I thought, and I said, and most of the time it's in some sort of, I'd say, a lightly negative context. When I get out of that, I can accompany somebody, because then it's like, well, I'm doing this.
Right.
It's not me anymore. It's you.
I've been working on trying to be more present in the lives of the people that I'm around. For a couple of weeks now, I've gotten where I took the Facebook app off my phone.
Yeah.
And so if I want to check Facebook,
got to be at a computer.
I have to be at a computer, or I have to download the app and do all that stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm a really busy guy, so unless I actually have time to do that, I'm not going to.
Yeah.
So I'm ashamed to say how much more productive I've been in the last couple of weeks. I'm just just doing this stuff. Like when I'm hanging out with my girlfriend, who I love dearly, I just want to be there for her all the time.
Yeah.
We're together right now. We're getting the most out of this. Whether we're just watching TV or going out to dinner, I don't want to think about my phone.
Yeah.
And that's a hard thing to do.
Well, it is.
I'm a business owner. I do need to check my phone and stuff, but I've found ways to be able to. I can handle my business stuff, so the social media side, without having to dive into the personal social media stuff.
Right.
And that has helped me a lot. Just freed up brain stress.
Yeah.
You don't realize how you're scrolling through and you're getting all these different stories. You're just like,
oh man,
it's just stressful.
Yep. You said it, dude. That's that is literally what the motivation for this show has been. Is the biggest motivator is, if I'm going to be online, then I don't want to be putting anything out there that isn't helpful or good anymore.
Right.
I don't want to do that. I don't want my words to be this base language, bickering. I want it to be elevated discourse. And if I can't have that, and if I see where it's not going that way, I just tune it out, I turn it off. For a long time, I was letting it come in, just like you said, all that, every direction. And then I realized, just like this device, I was like, well, hang on. For years, I had a CB in my truck up until recently. And it was the same thing. I was doing the same thing with that technology. When I'm driving down the interstate and too many CB voices coming in, and then people start telling stories you don't want to hear, and I would just sit there and tune the squelch and turn the gain and all that, and then it would go quiet, and then the only people I could hear were the people that were near me. Mm-hmm. Not that I wanted to hear that, but it was the same principle. And then one day I was just going, I do this with my CB all the time. Why can't I do this with social media? Mm-hmm. Just tune it.
Yeah.
Tune it.
When I'm hanging out with my kids, when I'm hanging out with my girlfriend and her daughter, why would I want to be worrying about notifications on my personal Facebook? It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It kind of doesn't exist. It does exist, but if it went away,
right,
not that much would change.
Right.
In the grand scheme of things.
I hear you. No, I totally get it. For me, it's the same thing. So much of what we do in advertising is tied to it now. Mm-hmm. And it's just inking its way closer and closer to being like all you do. And we're in a weird position because our market still, there's an older generation that's like, I'm not even on there. I don't even get it. I don't know why I use it.
Right.
But at the same time, they want to use it, and you go, for me, the only value in it is the human element. It's just like an instrument or anything. It's like, well, if there's no humanity in this, if it's just algorithms and I'm being fed things because of my interests or what have you, then what do I want to be in here for?
Right.
I want to make human connections, good human connections, not, just like you see, like when the president makes a post on Twitter and you just go look at just the miles and just millions of just conversations that get started, and they get so negative. And I'm just like, why in the world would I want to stick my head in there?
Yeah.
It's like sticking your head into a bowl of bees, man. I'm like, I don't want to do this to myself. Can't take it.
And that's the thing, and it's on both sides.
Oh, sure. It's like throwing a rock or a Molotov cocktail and splatters everywhere.
Yeah.
And everybody, both sides, like you said, it just turns into this.
Yeah, it's just like, I know you don't like him and he doesn't like you. Okay, fine.
Right.
I got so many other things that people are depending upon me for. Yeah. And I need a positive, upbeat attitude.
Yeah. Well, and it's like you said something, what's in front of you, who's in front of you, who can you actually affect? For me, most of the time, sometimes it's a client. A lot of times it's relationships at this table like we have here. And then most of the time it's my family.
Right.
It's those people. Well, if I can affect them in a positive way, then when they go out into the world, maybe that catches a flame somewhere where they're at.
Right.
That's really the best I can do, for the most part. Mm-hmm. I guess with a show like this, there's a little bit bigger blast zone because now there's other people that get to hear what we're talking about here, and maybe that will have some residue. As a bigger blast zone, I guess, than maybe my immediate family. But
that actually is a lot of why I put a lot of my weightlifting stuff like in my social media.
Yeah,
because I kind of want people to see, like, look, a lot of people think, oh, I just can't do it. I want to lose some weight before I go to the gym. Like, I hear that a lot. I want to lose a little bit of weight before I go to the gym. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
No, that's why you go to the gym.
There's a lot of that I see online. People talk about that. They're worried that's a shame thing. Like, they're worried people are going to shame them because you got the gym culture.
Yeah.
That's like, got all the gear, got the clothes. It's like,
that'll happen in which you just don't go to that gym. Find a place that you want to go to.
That happens in everything, though.
Everything.
I mean, look, it's even like when
I've taught places that it was like that.
Oh,
like,
man.
You walk in, you're like, I won't say the name of the school, but it was one of the first jobs I had after college. And it was like, I'm at the first faculty meeting, I'm introducing myself to people, and they're just kind of like, like,
yeah.
Wow. Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
And I was like, this does not jive very well.
Yeah. It's anything where there's an established culture and then there's a tribal attitude. It's hard to get back in. Like when I, again, talking about Catholicism with my grandfather, when I walked towards that and I got into it, I realized I was bringing all of me to it. And the way I look at life and the way things have been in my life was that you bring something to something, and then all of a sudden they become sort of the beauty of it is they merge together. Something new is born.
Yeah.
And what I found more for me, my experience was a little more tribal than that. It was more, well, you need to change to come into this culture, and if you don't have the clothes, or you don't have the gear, and you don't have the stuff, it's like you're still an outsider even within until you adopt. Those things.
Yeah.
And that's just everywhere. I mean, I can see people maybe feeling like that. But I mean, I agree with what you're saying. You're putting something out there. It is motivating to see what you're doing. And then to see other people comment and go, man, good job. I'm so proud of you and stuff like that. It makes you realize that was kind of what got me curious about you. I'm going, there's obviously a before and after here. Because you're hearing these people cheer you on and about your accomplishments.
Right.
So I knew there has to be a place. You got to. This comes from somewhere.
Yeah, it's pretty cool to have people rooting for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I've done some dumb things. I've made mistakes. We all do.
Sure.
And I count myself fortunate that I'm in the position I'm in now, where I'm like, cool. Things are pretty good, actually.
Yeah. I hope it stays that way.
I have people that I love. And that love me.
Yeah.
Like, I have food every day. I have gainful employment. I'm back in school. My kids are phenomenal. They're doing great. Got a woman that loves me, and I love her unconditionally.
What more could you ask for? So many people don't have even one of those things.
Yeah.
Through no fault of their own.
Yeah.
Right?
I have my health. Yeah, it's kind of hard to be mad when you just kind of break it down like that.
You've been given a lot, and through all those things that you've shared today, I think you've been given a lot of things that you can draw on. That's really, and to be able to look at them that way and utilize the energy of all that and say, hey, these are all great blessings I can give with. That's awesome. Dude, I thank you for coming.
Thanks for having me. I really enjoyed it.
I hope this has been good.
Yeah.
It's glad to finally get to meet you. We saw each other at Brian's Memorial there, and I wanted to talk to you, but it just wasn't really the right time or place to dive off a cliff. But
Right.
No, this has been good, man. So how do people get in touch with you if they're interested in contacting you?
Okay. So I do most of my content I put out on Instagram.
Yeah?
And my Instagram name is Jeremy Boudreaux space music educator.
Yeah, okay. We'll put a link to it in the
Yeah.
post.
And you can find me on Facebook. You can find my business is Village Music School.
Right on.
We're on Facebook. You can contact me there. Any questions about that stuff? We have 5 teachers right now teaching different instruments, all levels. We do band rehearsals there, stuff like that. And yeah, and on my Instagram page is where you'll see me put a lot of like shows where I'm playing, what groups I'm working with.
Yeah.
And I got some pretty cool things coming down the pipeline. So
Yeah, well, keep us posted, man. And I hope you do your podcast.
yeah, it's just put it on the list.
Yeah, well, you got a lot going on, man.
Yeah.
You got to prioritize, like
Yeah.
it's like anybody. But yeah, if you do that, man, let me know.
Yeah, for sure.
We'll stay in touch too. We're doing these mixtape episodes now, where we're bringing people back
Okay.
to get people that have been on here individually, but put them at the same table together.
Ah, yeah.
See what happens.
I dig it.
Yeah, it'd be something different. So
Yeah.
we're doing the first one this month. It's going to have Paul Gonsalon, Rosie Pryor, and Elizabeth McDaniel. So
awesome.
yeah, it should be an interesting
I
conversation.
like all of those people.
And I love you just as well.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Find the Good News. If you would like to advertise on this show or sponsor an episode, just visit findthegood.news. Send me a message and we'll see about getting your business, organization, service, product, or event on the show. I deeply thank each of you again for supporting this podcast.